majesty and all in wonder, the King of glory, the King above all kings. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Yeah. Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes the orphan a son and daughter? The King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance. The King of glory, the King above all kings. Yeah, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Yeah, all that you've done for me. Thank you so much, guys. You can be seated real quick. No? Never mind. Stand back up. I misread the paper. That's right. Turn around, get somebody a middle high top five. Heard somebody this morning. Chosen, I am free, and I am living for eternity. Free now, forever. You pick me up, turn me around. You set my feet on solid ground. Yours now, forever. And nothing's gonna hold me back. Nothing's gonna hold me back. Nothing's gonna hold me back. My chains fell off, my heart was free. I'm alive to live. live, free to give, free to be. I'm free to love you, free to live, free to give, free to be. I'm free to love you, free to live, free to give, free to be. I'm free to love you, Lord. My chains fell off, my heart was free. I'm alive to live for you. I'm alive to live for you. Amazing love, how can it be? 'Cause you gave everything for me. You gave everything for me. Yeah. You gave everything for me. You gave everything for me. Let praise be a weapon that silences the enemy. Let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We sing your name in the dark and it changes everything. We sing with all we are and claim your victory. Let it rise. Let praise arise. Let it rise. We'll see you break down every wall, and I'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, let faith be a song that overcomes the raging sea. Let faith be a song that calms the storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let faith arise. Let it rise. We'll see you break down every wall and watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, this is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. We pray. We'll see you break down every wall and watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side, forever lifted high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, praise you. Oh, we praise you. Sovereign in the mountain air, sovereign on the ocean floor, with me in the calm, with me in the storm, sovereign in my greatest joy, sovereign in my deepest cry, with me in the dark, with me at the dawn. In your everlasting arms, all the pieces of my life, from beginning to the end, I can trust you. In your never failing love, you work everything for good. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. Sovereign in the mountain air, sovereign on the ocean floor, with me in the dark, with me in the storm, sovereign in my greatest joy, sovereign in my deepest cry, with me in the dark, with me at the dawn. In your everlasting arms, all the pieces of my life, from beginning to the end, I can trust you. In your never failing love, you work everything for good. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. All my hopes, all I need, held in your hands. All my life, all of me, held in your hands. All my fears, all my dreams, held in your hands. All my hopes, all I need, held in your hands. All my life, all of me, held in your hands. All my fears, all my dreams, held in your hands. In your everlasting arms, all the pieces of my life, from beginning to the end, I can trust you. In your never failing love, you work everything for good. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. In your everlasting arms, all the pieces of my life, from beginning to the end, I can trust you. In your never failing love, you work everything for good. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. God, whatever comes my way, I will trust you. God, whatever comes my way, I'll trust you.
Man, easy to sing that. Tough to do that, isn't it? Whatever comes our way, we'll trust Him. Let's pray. Let's do that this morning. Father, thank you for your goodness, your mercy, your grace. It's one of the reasons that reminds me I can trust you, Lord. So today we're going to do our best to lean into that, to be able to surrender to you, and to be able to trust you. And we trust you with this time this morning, God. Speak to us, challenge us, encourage us, help change us a little more like you. We ask this in your name. Everybody said? Amen. Amen. You guys can have a seat. Well, good morning. Time change weekend. And it feels a little like time change weekend. 9 o'clock, we thought there were going to be 6 of us at about 8:55, but we filled it in a little bit more. That's good. Those of you guys that are getting up a little early, some of you guys didn't even know it was time change weekend, so congratulations. You get an extra hour of daylight today. We say every week, guests around here, if you're new around here, this is probably a day that's a hard one to invite people at 9 o'clock. So, but when you do invite people, because I know that you are inviters, you're people that say, hey, you know what, this church is making a difference in my life. It's why we include people in on it, right? Because this is making a difference. When you do that, be sure to take them back in the back by that table, get their mug, introduce them to somebody. It's just a great way to meet another face, whether it's Rachel back there, or me back there, or Greg back there, whomever's back there, just to say, hey, we're glad that you're here. So be sure to do that. Those of you guys that give on a regular basis, thank you for doing that. It's how a nonprofit functions, is the people of the nonprofit help support the nonprofit and helps make that happen. So thank you guys for doing that. And then Tracy tells me that 2 or 3 new Go Kids volunteers would make a big difference in Go Kids. Is that right, Tracy? Okay, so for the next 15 minutes, we're just going to wait till the 3 of them volunteer. No, I'm just kidding. Here's what we say. We want you to love to serve where you're serving. We think everybody ought to have some sort of action of helping give back and make this place happen around here. If you're somebody who doesn't like children, Tracy does not want you in Go Kids, okay? So if that's your MO, but if you're somebody who's like, you know what, I'd love to be able to love on little kids and be able to help in some way, and if that's a need we have in our church, I might be able to help step in and meet that. So when you talk to Tracy, she's not going to handcuff you and make you be in there. She's going to answer some questions for you. So if you're interested in that, talk to Tracy. She'll be in the back of the room. Will you be back here after this gathering? Yep, she'll be back there. She'll be love to talk to you. Okay, how many people have ever seen the show American Pickers? Yeah, I love that show. I end up watching 3 or 4 hours of it if I get sucked into it. I love it. And if you haven't seen the show, this is what happens. There's a couple guys from Iowa, and they travel all over the nation, and they're looking for antiques, and they just start collecting all this stuff. And they go buy them, and they either resell them like at their shop or online, or sometimes they go in their own personal collections. They love this stuff. And sometimes when they go to buy the stuff, they're buying the stuff from the kids who now have all this stuff, and they don't want really anything to do with it. And when they land in those spots, they bring in vans, they send trucks, they buy a bunch of stuff. Most of the time on the show, they're buying stuff from the people who've collected all this stuff. And they show up, and there's mountains of stuff there, and they won't hardly let go of anything. I'm talking like a little jug, or an old rusted out motorcycle that hasn't ran since 1942. Like, they just won't let go of anything. Now, I remember one episode, there was an elderly man. He was there with 2 of his children, and in this episode, they show up, they're trying to buy some of this stuff, and the father and the 2 kids are having this interaction, and there's a moment that takes place where the guy's countenance shifts. It shifts from having all this stuff and all this stuff that he's collected over these years to realizing that he's got all this mountain of stuff and it really doesn't have much meaning at all at this point. And he's got a couple years left, and all of a sudden you can see him looking at his daughters. It was 2 daughters differently, and they all had tears running down their face, and you could see a shift that took place. And it was sad, and it was beautiful. It was sad because he lived his whole life collecting all of this stuff. And then it was beautiful that even though it was late in life, he had a shift. Something shifted in his mind, and he began to see more clearly about what the actual value of life was and the way that he had actually lived it with all this mountain of stuff. So today we're wrapping up this series called Jesus Talks Money, I hope it's been a helpful series for you. It's been great reminders for me and for our family. It's certainly an important part of our lives. Money's a big deal. There is a saying that says money makes the world go. There you go. There must be a lot of sayings about money makes, but money makes the world go round. I knew it because I typed it in here, so it was much easier for me to know. Money makes the world go round. One thing for sure is this: we all use it. We all have it. So it's a pretty important thing. And if we're followers of Jesus, then we learn from Jesus how to love like Jesus and live as Jesus were we. And I say if we're followers of Jesus because when we're followers of Jesus, by the very nature, what we do is we follow Jesus. What does Jesus teach? What does Jesus say? How does Jesus live? Then that's how we live. That's what we do. Jesus used money in 42% of his parables. So if he does that, we say we're followers of Jesus. When he speaks up about this, then we lean in and say, what does he have to say about that? What's he talking about when it comes to this subject? And we've said this at the beginning. This subject's been misused and abused. It's been used to guilt and shame people over the years. And that's not how Jesus talks about anything in the kingdom. Matter of fact, when he's talking about stuff in the kingdom, including money, it's always about what he wants for us, not what he wants from us. God does not need your money. He does not want your money. The Bible says he owes 1,000 cows on 1,000 hills. Like, he doesn't need any of it. What he's looking for is just cooperation in the kingdom life. That's what he's inviting us into. He knows how to live the kingdom life because he created the kingdom. Therefore, he's saying, hey, let's get a better idea of what this looks like to live this out, okay? So as we wrap up, we're going to look at a question that Jesus sets up with this parable in Luke chapter 12, 16 through 21. Then he told them a parable. A certain rich man, his land produced a bountiful crop. And he said to himself, what will I do? I have no place to store all my harvest. Then he thought, here's what I'll do. I'll tear down all my barns and I'll build bigger ones. That's where I'll store all my grain and my goods. And I'll say to myself, you have stored up plenty of goods, enough for several years. Take it easy, eat, drink, and enjoy yourself. But God said to him, fool, tonight you will die. Now who will get the things that you have prepared for yourself? This is the way it will be for those who hoard things for themselves and aren't rich towards God. Here's the good news in this. Only using money to prepare for the future ends in total loss. Money is a tool for doing something meaningful while you are here to choose to use it to do something meaningful. Now, on the surface, it may seem like we don't really have anything in common with the rich man, but I think it's possible we have way more in common with the rich man than what we actually think. I think it's possible in this story, as I told before, in the parable, there's always a God figure. There's always somebody else that they're speaking to. I think we actually are the rich man. That's what I think. Then he told this parable, a certain rich man's land produced plenty crop. He said to himself, what will I do? I have no place to store all my stuff. Have you ever taken a load or 2 or 20 to the thrift store or Goodwill? Have you ever had a hard time finding a place to put your stuff when you go to your storage room because there's already a bunch of stuff that you're already storing in there for some other day, or maybe something that you don't ever use at all? I've got a picture of our storage room. Here it is. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to show you our storage room. This looks terrible. I'm ashamed of it. Listen, I'm not saying that storage is bad. I'm not hating on taking stuff to Goodwill, taking stuff to the thrift stores. I think that's actually a really good idea. All I'm saying is maybe we have more in common with the rich man than what we think. We typically look at other people like in a story like this, or we want to look at other people in life and we want to sit back and say, well, at least, and then we want to justify where we are, who we are, right? Human nature. It's what we do. We walk around judging other people and comparing ourselves in there. And I'm just saying, I think maybe in this story, Jesus is saying, hey, maybe all of us are the rich man in this situation. All of us are the rich man. I'm the rich man, you're the rich man, we're the rich man. So he has all this surplus, all this extra, and he poses this question to himself. What will I do with it? Same for us. I have no place to store it. What will I do with all my harvest? And notice the two-letter word that he uses here. My. What am I going to do with all of my stuff? It's all mine. I've collected it. I've earned it. What am I going to do with all of this that's mine? And this is a great reminder, back to where we started in week 1. Greed, it's all mine. Greed is the assumption that it's all for my consumption. That's what takes place. When you start talking about stuff like I and my, and you're starting to hold stuff tightly, you might have to question, like, maybe I'm holding on to this a little tight. Greed says everything that I am, everything that passes through my hands, it's all for me. What will I do with all that I have? And what does he do? It says, then he thought, here's what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns. I'll build bigger ones. That's where I'll store all my grain and goods. And I'll say to myself, man, you've stored up plenty of good. Enough for several years. Take it easy. Eat, drink, and enjoy yourself. Sounds like a pretty good plan. Sounds like the American dream, right? To have enough to buy whatever you want, and to have enough to buy whatever you want in the future, and to have enough still that your kids can do whatever they want. Like, that sounds like an okay plan, but I think this guy needs this good news that only using money to prepare for the future ends in a total loss. Money is a tool to do something meaningful while you are here to use it. And did you notice who he consulted about this big dilemma? Himself. Man, I got all this stuff. Hey, self. Yeah. What do you think I ought to do with all this stuff? You know you're talking to yourself, right? Yeah, I know. You've done a good job. I know I have. It's pretty awesome, isn't it? Yeah, you got a lot. I know. What do you think we ought to do, self? I think we should sit back and enjoy it all, don't you? Yeah, sounds good. That's his consulting. The inner self, selfishness, looking to me. What am I going to do with all my stuff? That's what he does, consults himself. I know that sounds silly, but it is silly whenever we treat things like everything we have is ours. Because then we start running through everything through our brain. And what's that going to look like? What that breeds more times than not is greed. Now, I know we struggle with this on a regular basis at times with our stuff. It's why Jesus started this whole parable out, actually, one verse before. It's the one Brian opened this series with. It said, then Jesus said, watch out. Watch out. Guard your heart against all kinds of greed. After all, one's life is determined by more than one's possessions, even when someone is very wealthy. And we've talked about this before. I know when we look across maybe our community or our town, or we compare people, in another state, we think, we're not as wealthy as them. When we talk about the globe, we are some of the wealthiest people on the planet. Watch out. Watch out, he says. Watch out. But then Jesus surprised his whole audience when he said this. But God said to him, fool, tonight you will die. Now who will get the things that you've prepared for yourself? In other words, Jesus is saying, hey, now you're out of time. You may not be out of grain, but you're out of time. You may not be out of money, but you're out of time. And God asked this rich man a question that I really think is kind of for all of us in this way. Who will get what you prepared for yourself? You know what his answer would be in that situation? Somebody else. And here's what's sad. Not because he was generous. They don't get it because he was doing something good. They don't get it because he was trying to figure out, how can I help other people that maybe are less fortunate rather than me storing all this up? What good could I do with it? They get it because he died. Like, isn't that sad? Not because he's generous, just because he died. What we do with our money shows what we really believe about it. Jesus continues and he says, this is the way it will be for those who hoard things for themselves and are not rich towards God. What Jesus is doing is he's drawing the point of this parable and applying it to his listeners. He's saying, here's who God is in this story. Here's who you might be in this story. And by the way, listen up, because this is how this story unfolds. This is what it looks like when you continue to live this way. Total, complete loss. Everything that you had, everything was left behind. He ate, drank, was merry, then he died. And yep, somebody else got stuff, I'm sure. Didn't just like burn up then, somebody got it. not because he was generous, but because he died. Jesus is not teaching against preparing for the future. There's a lot of great scripture talking about preparing for the future and thinking ahead. Jesus is saying this is how it's going to be for someone who only prepares for their future and is not rich towards God. This is how it's going to be when you embrace the consumption assumption that it's all for me. He built bigger barns because he thought it was all for him. That's what he did. What we do with what we have determines what we think about what we have. Jesus is saying this is a disaster way to live your life. God didn't come in and say, I killed you because you live this way. He's saying, you're going to live this way, and eventually you're going to run out of time. And you're going to run out of time probably before you run out of money. And what's that going to say about your life? Only using money to prepare for the future ends in a total loss. Money's a tool for doing something meaningful while you're here to use it. We are the rich man. What do we do with what we have? Is it just for me? That's greed. What did this guy do? He asked the question, what do I do with all I have? Now catch this. I think this is important. What he did tells us what he believed about it. He believed it was for him now and later, then he died, right? Here's one thing that's great is Jesus was talking to a bunch of people in this story that were not dead. He's not talking to dead people. He's talking to live people. I'm not talking to dead people. You're not dead. Some of you are sleeping, but you're not dead, okay? He's talking to live people, saying, hey, watch out. Listen up. Let me tell you this story about a rich man and how he handled things and the way that he thought money was actually to be used and the things that came through his hand. And this is how he lived. It ended in total loss. And by the way, anybody else that lives that way, that's where it's going to end up. He's just saying this is what it looks like. There's something I think unique about when we say 42% of his parables he used money and wealth. I think there's a phenomenon with this idea with money is it takes something that's subjective. Hey, this is how I think, this is what I say. And all of a sudden it makes it objective. It's measurable. Do I actually live how the way I say and how I think that I'm living? It's no wonder Jesus uses it, I think, on and on, because it's a great lens for us to say, how are we actually living the life that we say that we're living? So we can see something different and do something different. The rich man thought his money was all for him. Entitlement, reward, sit back and enjoy it. Jesus taught it's a tool. He's saying this is a different way to live your life. And here's the thing, we can't think something and then say this is what we believe about something and then live an entirely different way. I mean, we can. What's going to happen, though, is it just disregards everything that you think and everything that you say. So when we think something, we say, this is what I believe. This is how I think I believe. This is what I say I believe, but I actually live this way over here. You don't actually believe what you think that you believe because you don't live the way that you actually say. It's a true thing. It's why it takes something subjective and it makes it very objective. How do I actually believe about this subject? Only using money to prepare for the future ends in total loss. Money's a tool for doing something meaningful while we are here to use it. And what I love about this is I don't know all the details of the afterlife. I don't know all the details of this current life. But here's what I know right now. I get to choose how I live my life. I get to choose it. When I follow Jesus, I get to choose to follow Jesus. When I see something new that Jesus begins to show me, I get to choose if I want that more. Then I get to do something to actually demonstrate I actually believe it. That's a beautiful thing that we get to do right now. I think that's a beautiful thing about this story, is he's telling this story and he's saying, by the way, all of you guys are living and breathing and walking. And if you're actually going down this road, it's going to end here. And so many times he gives an opportunity to say, but there's a new way to live life. And if you live life this way, this is actually how it's designed to live. This brings life and goodness and kingdom. Well, that's what it does. When it comes to how we operate in our house, talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago. We give. We give out of gratitude, and we give out of what breaks our heart. We give out of gratitude because we feel like, man, the stuff we have isn't ours. That's come to us. So we're grateful for those things. Therefore, we give back. And we always give first to here, this church. It's transformed my life. I've been coming here since 2004. It began to transform my life right then. I met my wife here. That's enough where I should just be indebted for the rest of my life, just for this place. But seriously, you people, this place, our team that we have, small group leaders building into our kids, so many of our kids, you guys know and love and encourage and build into them. It's transforming our lives. We're so grateful. So what we do every year, we carve out an amount. We decide what we're going to give, and we do that every single month because this place is changing our life. We're grateful for it. We want to help support it. That's what we do. That's how we do that. We also give out of a place that breaks our heart, which means this is always for those that are less fortunate in some way. And where we give to changes over the years on this. But it's always to somebody that's like, it's maybe an organization that's meeting a need that maybe I couldn't meet. So I try to meet that need through them. And I go, man, thank you guys for doing that. We also carve some back that we just give to the less fortunate, that we might actually see in some sort of real-time way, that we hear this is going on and we just help, and we do that. Keith, Sharon, your guys' small group, so good at this, so good at being able to see the less fortunate and say, we're going to rally around them and help them out. So many times I see your small group do that. Give towards something that breaks their heart. At 19 years old, I started following Jesus. Shortly after, I started living life in this way financially. We grew up with nothing. We were so poor, so poor. We hauled water from a mile down the road and put it into a cistern because we didn't have a well. We had no air conditioning. We heated with wood. We lived like it was 1920. We had buckets catching water everywhere. We had nothing. We were so poor growing up. And at 19, I started living in a different way that said, I'm going to be generous with the things that I have, and it's transformed my whole life. It's transformative. It's why I believe this deeply. So, what does that look like for you? You evaluate. It takes something that's subjective, makes it very objective. How am I living my life? We're the rich man. Are we leaning into greed? Or what are we doing with the things that we have? And if you're in a place where you're like, I think I'm living the assumption consumption, then you'd have a choice to make. Do I need to move and do something differently? And if you do, I think there's a really great do. I think give from a grateful heart and give from a broken heart. And I encourage you this week, find a place to give out of gratitude. Find a place that you're grateful for and give something to that. Choose to do something. This is an embodied response of what we would do. This is what I think. This is what I say. How do I actually live? What am I going to do? And then find a place that breaks your heart and give back to that in some way. It's a do. What we often do when we follow Jesus, we learn, we see, we notice God at work, we see a choice, what do I want more? And then we actually do something to say, this is how I'm going to follow him in this. We just lean in and we surrender to it and we trust it. That's what we do. So, this kind of wraps up this series. It's been a great series. I hope it's been helpful to use to see something different, to create some do's in your life, those kind of things. I just wondered before we wrapped up if somebody would share like how this has been helpful, something you've seen differently, or something that's moved you in a different direction, or some sort of result of this series. Has it been helpful to you? So, anybody? We got 40 minutes, so we'll just sit here. Oh, nobody has to share. I'm just curious. Like, it's a tough subject. So, mm. Mm. Yeah. 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 And not just a monetary. It's the blessings of life. It's the too many times I think we step out thinking, oh, if I do this, then God's going to pour a blessing down on me, versus what Jesus is always describing is this is the blessed way to live. It's not you do this and I bless you. It's going, this is the blessed way to live life. He's describing it for us. This is how to live. And what's beautiful is if you live the other way, then whatever financial thing he handed to you just either ended there, rather than saying it doesn't end there. The kingdom continues to go. The good things that happen in our life and that we choose to do with our life are the things that last beyond our life and last beyond this world. Everything else burns away. It's the good. It's the love. It's the things that we do in the kingdom are the things that survive in the kingdom. That's how that works. That's great. 82 years old. Wow. That's awesome. Somebody else. Jared.
It reminded me the chicken soup for the soul books.
Oh, yeah.
There's a story I read a long time ago. There's this family up in New York City, and a poor family, and this gentleman had saved up money to give a pair of glasses, which is very much a luxury then. And they were doing a missions thing, sending stuff overseas. And while they were, even though they were poor, they still wanted to give. And he discovered one after it packaged up and sent it that his glasses had fallen into this box and got sent over. And some months later, they received a letter back from the pastor where they got this stuff. And this guy, his eyesight had gotten very bad, and he couldn't read his Bible very much anymore. And he said that when they opened the box, here's this pair of glasses laying on top of the box. And he takes them out and puts them on, and they were just perfect, just the exact prescription that he needed. And this amazing coincidence, right?
Yeah.
And he said, and the author who was writing this had said that he always looked at his dad, even though they were poor, he kept, we got to give, we're going to give, and how it worked out that way. And I think so many times we do things, and we might never know what the ultimate result is. It might not get back to us. We got to trust that God knows what He's doing, and if we're acting out of our hearts and doing the right things, that ultimately it's all going to work for His good.
Yeah. That's good. Two things I'm hearing this is he doesn't say, hey, poor, watch out. It often speaks to those that have a lot of stuff, right? That's why we want to try to categorize in the poor of like, we don't really have that much. When he speaks to the poor, he's like, this person gave this. It's all they had. It was back to the original thing of all this is his anyway. This is the way this whole thing looks. This is the way this whole thing works out. And it is striking to me often. I do see the poor sometimes are the most generous in those situations. And sometimes and when it does shift or change, it changes out of like a perspective of that for you guys where you're saying, now we're in a position to give, but it's because we've been doing this our whole lives. And it's why we see for dues to try to say, what do we do? How do we do that? How do we respond? So it's because when we begin to follow Jesus, that's what begins to transform us. When we surrender to Him and His ways and what He's up to, it does good work in our lives and begins to transform us. Anybody else? Something to say? Yeah, Carol. Mm. Throwing you under the bus, Terry. It's a place of honesty. Goodness, that's good. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. That's awesome. Thanks, Carol. Appreciate it. Your mama's a sweet lady. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it's something we hand down. It's the thing Jesus is handing down, kingdom way of life, and it's a way to live. Thanks, Mark. He was talking about an adding machine. He'd hear the click, 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 click. Now it's, yeah. Now it's a whole different thing. Carl, you getting ready to say something? You loved it, huh? Yeah. Helped shift your thinking on grateful for what you have, that kind of thing. Yeah, awesome. Well, this wraps up the series. We have answered questions over the course of this series, and we have, if you've noticed, if you've submitted some questions and maybe those haven't got answered, they probably got answered within the context of some of the messages that we were teaching out. And then there's also been questions that we've answered specifically that question. And that question's still open on the thing today. So you can go on the app and you can say today's question, still submit a question. Somebody will answer it. I'm not sure. Am I up next weekend too? Yeah, maybe I'll answer it next weekend. We'll see. But there was a question from last week that I want to answer before we close. This question said, Leslie quoted the founder of AA, "You can't think your way into right acting, but you can act your way into right thinking." It initially sounds good, another way to describe embodied Jesus following, but it also sounds reminiscent of a way of being that I've discarded. Fake it till you make it. Is there a difference between the two statements? If so, what would the difference be? Great question. I love when we open these questions up and then when you actually ask them. I think it's great. Those things come in. And the primary distinction between these two is practicing something versus faking something. I think there's a real distinction between that. I'm not what you would say, elevated culinary chef, but I have started liking cooking a little bit more. I've eaten a little more fine food here and there, and I'm like, man, that's what a steak should taste like? That's amazing. So I have started cooking more so, rather than just frying venison and some white gravy and biscuits, which I could live off that for about a year and a half and then I'd die. But I could. I love that. So that was a lot of my cooking. So I've started cooking more, okay? I like stuff done quick and easy, that kind of thing. But what I have learned, if I want a good quality steak that's rare on the inside and that's charred on the outside and has a hint of rosemary and garlic pepper and steak seasoning, I have to practice cooking that if I want those kind of results on a regular basis. So I don't cook by a cookbook, and I don't use a meat thermometer. Maybe I should. But I'm also not faking it, okay? I'm practicing it. I'm practicing getting better. I'm using things that you have to use if you want to do this. I'm using heat and ingredients and a steak. I know what I'm looking for. I'm spending time in the kitchen. I'm spending time at the grill. It's building confidence. Now, if you come over and said, make me a steak, I'll be like, you bet. It's going to be the best steak you ever had. Like, confidence is building in me in that way. It's given me failures to learn from, and it's given me successes to be proud of. Practice. I keep doing it, and it keeps me in the game, and eventually what's happening is I'm getting more consistent results. I'm not faking it. I'm making it. I am doing that, but I'm not faking it. Faking it would be like this. I go to Mad Cow. I get one of their steaks. I go home. I sear it, put it on my plate, and be like, man, this is a good steak. Isn't that awesome? That would be faking it. This other is practicing. I'm doing something different. You see the difference, right? It's when we begin to, like I said, when we think, say, actually show, it's when I start to live this way out, it actually helps remind me, like Carol's saying, it helps remind me of these things that I actually truly believe, because I'm actually embodying and participating with what God's doing. It's not to say that right thinking isn't important. It is important. It just doesn't matter much when it comes to transformation. It doesn't matter as much as like actually participating in it. So when we think transformation in our lives and when we think about following Jesus, what we think and what we say really matters. But it's how we live. It's how we follow him. And when we follow him in these things that we know and we surrender to him, then it begins to really solidify what we believe. So the fact that I can get up here and teach this message is because at 19 years old, I began living in this way, and it's transformed my life over the last 10 years. At 29, today, totally a different person, you know? But it's because I've embodied it, I've lived it, I've practiced it. So did I think it and say it? I did, but it wasn't really until I was actually practicing it that it began to really solidify and form into thinking. Does that make sense? You're not faking it till you make it. You're truly practicing, and it begins to help form your belief. That's what it does. Okay, so that wraps it up. You got any good questions? Send them in. Don't forget about the financial resources on our app. Very helpful. If you know somebody looking for some help in financial way, click on that resource, look at those, pass those things along. Before we go, Dave and Misty are going to be up here at the front, and they're going to be here to pray for you. So if you guys need prayer, get with them, and they will help do that. Next week, we start a brand new series, and it's called, what's it called? Relative situations. Yeah, now you guys are all mysterious. It's a family series. It's going to be good, okay? So why don't you stand to your feet, guys. It reminds you of this good news, because it really is good. Only using money to prepare for the future ends in total loss. Everybody say total loss. Total loss. That's not where you want to end, right? That's what Jesus was saying. This way of life is total loss. Money is a tool. Everybody say tool. For doing something meaningful. Say meaningful. While you are here to choose, say choose, to choose to use it for something meaningful. Man, let's remember that. Let's go out of here. Let's give out of gratitude for something that you're grateful for. Give this week to something that breaks your heart. Give back and help in that way. Do something that backs up what you think and what you say, and actually do it, and that'll solidify again what you actually believe about it. Okay? You guys are dismissed. Have a great week.